Solange Mouzin joins me on the set for today's press review. Hi, Solange. Lots of focus in the French papers on Emmanuel Macron's speech last night.
Yeah, Emmanuel Macron's instructions to the French people were quite simple. Vaccinez-vous. Get vaccinated. Go get vaccinated. As we can see on the front page of Le Parisien, that this was a plea to holdouts, but also to older people to get their booster shots. His announcement... He announced that as of December 15th, those that are 65 and over will need to get their third jab for their health passes to remain valid, and those that are over 50 will be able to get their third jabs in December. Now, the speech, though, was not all about COVID. Les Echos tells us that Macron has decided to relaunch the construction of nuclear power plants after decades of a moratorium on the issue. Now, the economic paper, it says that this allows Macron to position himself both on an environmental level, but also on an economic one. Now, for the local paper Midi Libre, Macron's message was, quote, "It is time to get to work, au boulot," referring to the rollout of the booster campaign, but also to other key elements of Macron's speech, namely the tightening of rules for France's unemployed. The president said that those that are receiving unemployment benefits will need to prove that they are actively looking for a job or their benefits will be cut. And the papers are saying that such tightening of the screws for the unemployed is a classic pre-election move by presidents.
Right, and the presidential election's coming up next spring here in France. And for many French papers, Macron's speech really was just a launch into his re-election bid.
Yeah, for L'Opinion, what was going on here was 100% a political maneuver, a, quote, long moment of celebrating one's self, the paper says, and an attempt to control the narrative with less than 6 months to go until the presidential election. Now, for the left-leaning paper L'Humanité, Macron's unofficial entry, for it is an unofficial one, into the campaign shows his right-leaning colors, they say, namely in regard to unemployment and to security. And for the right-leaning paper, Le Figaro seems to agree with L'Humanité's assessment, saying Macron is far from pushing an image of himself that is both on the right and the left. This is something he did in his first campaign, but rather this time the balancing act is between both himself as a president, but also as a candidate.
Now, staying in France, a lot of papers in France are still covering US Vice President Kamala Harris's visit to Paris.
Yeah, this ongoing visit of Kamala Harris's is still going on as she is expected to meet the French president tonight at the Élysée. It is being seen as a continued effort to mend fences with France after the diplomatic row over AUKUS. Now, on top of that, the visit is a sort of test for the American VP. According to the Figaro, for her two previous foreign tours, they were met with criticism, and overall her popularity has hit, according to some polls, a historic low for a U.S. vice president. They say it's been the worst in 50 years. Now, in this line, Huffington Post France says that she is a star that has lost her shine, and the paper explains that this is because of an early controversy over Harris's management style, but also because of the very nature of her job, which historically is to play a sort of discreet second fiddle behind-the-scenes role to the president.
Solange, other papers are still focusing on the climate as the COP26 summit starts to wind down in Glasgow.
Yeah, we are currently on day 10 of 12 of the environmental summit, and negotiations are ongoing. There is a first draft that's just dropped, but the Guardian, as the Guardian's front page shows us, the trajectory of global warming is not waiting around. The paper says that even with the summit's short-term pledges, the warming is expected to top 2.4 degrees. That's more than previously thought. So more needs to be done. And according to an opinion piece in the New York Times, so much of this problem has to do with financing. Overall, over half of the new power plants that are being constructed are not consistent with keeping global warming down, and they are being financed by countries like China, Japan, South Korea, and from banks and corporations. Those investments, the Times says, need to pivot, and the paper argues not just from oil and coal to gas, but the money needs to move, they say, to clean energy and innovation. Now, for now, though, in Glasgow, the same old money is doing its usual thing, according to the cartoonist at the Toronto Star. Theo Moudakis' cartoon, in his cartoon, there's a spaceship that's supposed to represent dirty energy and a dwarfed Earth that's saying that the fossil fuel lobby may be too big for its own good. Now, indeed, fossil fuel, it's important to note, the fossil fuel companies sent more than 500 people to Glasgow. That is more than any single country.
And I think that's the Death Star, unfortunately.
Yeah, exactly.
All right, so let's wrap up now on a lighter note. You found some happy news about the world's youngest Nobel Peace Prize winner.
Yeah, the Pakistani paper The News writes that Malala, the famed activist for girls' education, well, she's gotten married. The 24-year-old announced the happy news on her Twitter feed, saying the small private ceremony in Birmingham marked, quote, a precious day in her life. Now, the British paper The Daily Telegraph even put Malala's tying of the knot on its front page, congratulating her and her Pakistani husband, who works in the cricket industry. It's also fun to note as well that this isn't the first time that Malala has talked about marriage. Just 6 months ago, so not very long, she told Vogue that she wasn't so sure she wanted to marry, especially as a younger person. And as a kid, she believed that she'd never marry or have children. There's the Vogue cover from that interview from this summer. But with time, she has realized that dreams change as you grow, and that it is all about, quote, finding your own path.
And finding the right person, I guess. Solange, thanks so much for that. Solange Moujon there with that look at today's papers. Don't forget, you can take a closer look if you like on our website, the address france24.com, where you can also check out all of the other news stories we're covering for you throughout the day.